I'm a member and co-founder of the Wigg Party. The Wigg Party's mission is to make the community that uses and lives around the bike route the Wiggle a leader in the transformation to sustainability and resilience. Well, one of the main projects and goals of the Wigg Party is to make the Wiggle safer and more beautiful for cyclists and pedestrians, and to make it San Francisco's newest landmark. There's a real opportunity to take these streets that were built for cars and turn them into something that is for people, and a real celebration of a new way of living in community in an urban environment. And so to that end, we've been working on the Fell and Oak project pretty intensively for a little while now. We have visions for the whole Wiggle, but of course the Fell and Oak section between Scott and Baker Streets are a really critical section of streets, 3 blocks on both Fell and Oak, that currently keep a lot of people off bicycles. So it's really a great project to target as one of the first things to work on if you're trying to make the Wiggle safer and more beautiful. And we've been involved in advocating for separated bikeways along Fell and Oak in a number of different iterations. This is, as you know, a long-going project that's gone through a few different phases, and this latest phase, where it seems like we're working to get separated bikeways, we've been involved in the process with the MTA, with the Bike Coalition. We went through the first walkthroughs with them, and have been big advocates for this project. My experience with the MTA in general has been pretty positive, actually. I feel like most of the people who work at the MTA that I've encountered understand the need for this project, understand that our world is facing larger issues like climate change and peak oil, and a lack of community, and that not having these separated bikeways, not having any infrastructure besides what we've built for cars, is really contributing to those problems. With regards to people who are complaining about potentially losing parking, because as you know, that's kind of what it's looking like. To accommodate this bike lane, we basically need to remove 80 parking spots. I don't think that I've had actually much interaction with those people. I attended all the public meetings that the MTA put together, and they did a great job getting the word out. You know, the people who are complaining about parking, by and large, were absent from this very public, very well publicized process that we all spent all our time participating in. And it's extremely frustrating on the back end to have that process be completed, and all of a sudden these people show up and say, "Oh, actually, I don't want that." You know, it's very frustrating, and it's frustrating to double back to the MTA, that the MTA is basically stopping what they want, what they know most people want, and what they know the city needs, because these people who didn't participate in the public process and just wrote some letters came out of the woodwork. All of a sudden the whole thing's off. Obviously people either at the MTA or in the mayor's office who are more concerned with the politics of what's happening on the ground and less concerned with what needs to happen for our city and for the bicycling community. You know, we have 441,000 public parking spots in San Francisco, and we have 0 safe bikeways from the east side of town to the west side of town that people 10 years old, 50 years old can access and use. And it's just absurd. It's really absurd that we can't create one single safe bikeway at the expense of 80 parking spots when we have over 440,000 parking spots in the city. Well, I think ultimately what it comes down to is the mayor. Mayor Ed Lee has shown that he can either make this happen or stop it. Back in last year, when this project first kind of came to the public light, it did so because Ed Lee said, "Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We should look into making that happen." And then all of a sudden it was a possibility, you know, and instead of just something that people had been clamoring for. And now it's pretty clear that he is basically part of the decision to delay the project. And I don't know if he made the decision himself. I don't know if Ed Reskin, the MTA, head of MTA, made that decision, but ultimately the buck stops in the mayor's office, and it's clear that if he wants something to happen, it can happen. And I think that, you know, in order to get this project done, he has to be behind it, and that he's not willing to push forward on a project that clearly makes sense for everybody who understands the larger issues at stake, who understands the particularities of you know, the situation beyond just I don't want to lose my parking. It's obvious that this project needs to get done. And what's particularly disconcerting to me is here in San Francisco, we were recently awarded the greenest city in America, largely because of our waste program, which is actually a really great program. But the reality is we're not the greenest city in the country. You know, we have cities all over the country, New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, you know, Portland, of course. These cities are lapping us with regards to bike infrastructure. And every single day that this project, remember, this is 6 blocks we're talking about. Chicago wants to put in 100 miles of bike lanes over the next 4 years. This is 6 blocks. And it's taken multiple years. It's apparently going to take another year. And every day that Ed Lee delays on making this happen is another day that we fall further behind in this new, I won't call it a race, but this new movement whereby we have to retrofit our cities for a new way of being in this world. And you know, we're the greenest city in the country based largely on reputation, largely on the sort of sensibilities of our population, which are still extremely strong. But that title, you know, can be gone tomorrow, and it should be, because this is now when things are happening, and this city is not willing to make it happen. They're more concerned, instead of doing the right thing, they're concerned with taking everybody's temperature. You know, with this hyper democracy, let's ask everybody, and if anybody complains, then we can't move forward on it. Well, guess what? Somebody's gonna complain with everything that you do. And if that's going to stop you from doing these projects that are extremely needed to make a better city and to make this city livable 5 years from now, then we're in really big trouble. And we're far from the greenest city in the world because of our political leadership. You know, I don't doubt that Ed Lee understands the big issues like climate change, peak oil, biosphere collapse, economic collapse. You know, I believe that he knows about resilient communities and what, you know, ultimately we need to do on paper, but he seems to not have the courage to do what is best. He doesn't know how to lead, it seems. He's good at asking everybody's opinion, but when you have 800,000 people stacked on top of each other in 49 square miles, and you're trying to make decisions based on everybody's opinion, that's a recipe for paralysis, and it's not going to work. And it's going to be to the detriment of the city. Even though these setbacks are disheartening, you know, the setback on Fell and Oak being delayed a year, the fact that, you know, as we speak, the police officers are being directed to go out on the Wiggle and give people tickets for not coming to full stops at stop signs, which is ridiculous. You know, despite these setbacks, I do have faith that things will ultimately come out right for our city. I do have faith that the Wiggle will be what it could be, namely a world-renowned bicycle route and community that sets a precedent for how you transform this grid of people living in a way that is, you know, detrimental to our world, to a way where people are creating community and mutually supportive and not making daily decisions that cause the atmosphere to, you know, build up greenhouse gases and, you know, have things thrown in landfills over and over. I think that the Wiggle and the community around the Wiggle will come out on top. I think that there are too many people who live around here who get it and who are passionate about making it work. So despite the sort of boneheadedness of our political leadership at this moment, I do believe they'll eventually see the light. I do believe that things will come together. And mostly I believe this because I fear to imagine a world in which San Francisco does not figure it out. Because Lord knows, at least in the history, people have kind of followed what we've done. We've always been on the edge of the future, and it would be a shame for a misguided mayor to ruin that for the rest of us.